Welcome to the United Pubcast. It's your Monday night, not your Monday night football, but it is your Monday night chat. It is Larry who I'll be your host today, joined by Tom as always. How are you, mate?
Very good. It's almost that time of year when there's no football. It's almost like that, that time around Christmas where you don't know what day it is. When there's no football, you kind of have that feel where just when you mention Monday, there's, it's Monday, start of the week. It's going to be a hell of a long 2 weeks until United are back. So I'm coping okay, thank you.
Great to hear. So what are we going to be talking about today? What is your reason to be tuning into this show when there is absolutely no Manchester United football? And I'm going to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, well, let's be honest, it's probably all gentlemen, isn't it, Tom? But nonetheless, let's not focus on that. What we're going to be debating today is who should be Manchester United's number one striker? Who is your prime number 9? Is it Cristiano Ronaldo? Is it Anthony Martial? Is it Marcus Rashford? Is it someone else? Do you think Bruno Fernandes should be number 9? I'm sure the Portuguese would tell us he is, but we'll get into all of that. So get your comments in and make sure if you are new here to hit that subscribe button because we always try and bring you the best content from the pub as possible. But let's bring it to the patrons in the comments. Viking Football, how are you, mate? Hello. Hope you're doing well. Adam, evening, mate. Hope you're doing well. Dom, afternoon. Afternoon, mate. Where in the world are you from? Saying afternoon. Must be a little bit earlier, I think. Stone Cold Steve Austin in the comments. To assist the debate, who do you think finishes these 3 attacking situations best? Cross coming in, through ball, and one-on-one on goal, and then ball to feet in a busy penalty area with back to goal. Might save that one, Steve. We'll come back to that, but it's a great question. We'll definitely address that as we go through the video. And Justin, evening, mate. Make sure you get your comments in as well if you want them read out and get involved in the debate. But Tom, let's not waste any time. We've seen 3 strikers play for Manchester United so far this season. How would you like to do this? I'm assuming you know who you want to be your number 1 striker, but
well, that's the thing I was having to think, and I don't know, and I think that's why it is such a good debate because I think there are cases for all 3 strikers, and then on the other hand, you could make a case that all 3 strikers shouldn't be. I think the interesting thing, you look at Marcus Rashford, and I put myself in the defender's shoes. I've had this debate in recent weeks, and they've had all the other strikers. At the moment, I think Rashford would potentially be at the bottom of my list. However, if I'm a defender, the one person, every footballer is selfish. When you walk on the field, you want the easiest 90 minutes possible and your best 90 minutes. So if you're a left midfielder, you want the other team's worst player to be their right midfielder. Every footballer is selfish. And I look at it from a defender's point of view, if given the option of Rashford, Martial and Ronaldo, Rashford's probably giving you the most problems in terms of sort of having to think about his game. And the moment you have to start thinking about someone else's game, it takes away from your game. I think that's hard for a defender. So there's case in point. Marcus Rashford is a handful for defenders, so Marcus Rashford should be the striker. But then I look at Anthony Martial. I think defensively and sort of his link-up play as well, he sort of makes us the better team in terms of when Ronaldo plays or Marcus Rashford plays. I think Anthony Martial makes us more complete. So if he makes us the better team, I think the answer should be Anthony Martial. But then I look at Ronaldo and maybe doesn't have the other attributes of Martial and Rashford, but I think Ronaldo ultimately at the end of the day is your best chance of winning games, which ultimately makes him the best striker. So I don't know. I think all 3 answers are wrong, or all 3 answers are right. And on the other hand, you can make a case that they're all wrong in their own regard. So, well, as you're the host, I can let you sort of take the lead. But I don't have an answer on who it should be. All right, definitely the live chat opinions will maybe sway me.
Hopefully by the end of the video, Tom, you'll have a firm and final position, as I'm sure I will as well. But make sure you join the debate as well. We want to get your comments in and see what you guys think too. So, Tom, without further ado, let's not waste any more time. We'll start with the first choice, Cristiano Ronaldo. Is Ronaldo still our best striker? That's the question. So what I will ask you to do is give me your case for why Cristiano Ronaldo should be first choice. And then I might try and counter that to say why he shouldn't be.
Well, it's an easy answer from my half. Then he's our best goal scorer. Those are facts. You can look to last season. You look over a career. He's our best finisher. Now, yes, we can argue in terms of are we going to create more chances if he's not playing? Are we a better balanced team? All those sort of valid arguments. But ultimately, the case for Ronaldo is he's our best goal scorer, and that's facts. No one can argue with that. There are sort of different sort of variables you can sort of point to. But ultimately, we go back to Steve's point earlier in the comments that the ball falls to someone in the box. Who do you want it to fall to? Anyone in the world. No one has scored more football goals than Cristiano Ronaldo. Ultimately, he's the answer of in terms of goal scorer. And so that's the case for Ronaldo. Ultimately, he's our best finisher.
All right, I'm going to try and break down your comments a little bit further. You've said Ronaldo's our best finisher. He's been our best finisher based on last season. He's been the world's best finisher based on the last 15 years of absolute success in what's been a glittering career. But is he our best finisher this season? Is the current Cristiano Ronaldo still capable of being the best finisher at Manchester United? Does his early season form suggest to you that he's over the hill, or do you purely put that down to match sharpness?
Yeah, sharpness. I think we've been a little bit over dramatic in regards to Ronaldo's form at the moment. It's a very unique situation for Ronaldo. No one's questioning his professionalism and fitness, but he didn't have a preseason. He's obviously looking off the pace, and I always go back to this point on Ronaldo in terms of viewing him into the future. Is Ronaldo going to be Ronaldo if he's not playing 90 minutes every week? It might actually change the person and change the player. If he's having to play 30 minutes every 2 weeks, maybe he won't be the Cristiano Ronaldo we know. Maybe it's a different player, and he's obviously going to be sort of. He might make him stronger in the long run, or it might make him a weaker player. So ultimately, I think we've been a little bit sort of overcritical at the moment in regards to what we've seen. I think it's off the back of no preseason. You look at the first 2 games, we sort of hit rock bottom sort of thing. That was a collective thing, not just a Cristiano Ronaldo thing. So I think, and ultimately, I think some games he's come off the bench and we think actually he looks quite good. He sort of changed the game in Man United's favour. And so ultimately, I don't think he's over the hill or anything. I think he's proved so many people wrong so many times before. I'm definitely not going to write him off. But is he the best finisher this season? Well, you could argue stats and no. In regards to goals, Marcus Rashford has more goals than Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, I don't know how many goals of those from Rashford has come from the striking position. Maybe someone has those stats in the live chat. But
officially 3. But, I mean, what position was he on the pitch when he scored those goals?
I think the 2 that spring to mind, the one that springs to mind. Sorry, I don't know about the second goal. Rejog my memory, but against Arsenal was with Cristiano Ronaldo through the middle and Rashford on the left. So those goals come from Marcus Rashford, but Ronaldo's in the middle. Now that's not giving me a definitive answer of who's the better striker, but in terms of, in my opinion, he is our best finisher this season, or will be our best finisher this season. Does that mean he's going to score the most goals? I'm not sure. That'll come down to minutes and how we play. But I think it's a bit early to write off Cristiano Ronaldo saying Martial's maybe a better finisher or Rashford's a better finisher. I think facts speak for themselves. Ronaldo proves us wrong so many times.
699 career goals. I mean, it's quite an astonishing record. I will say, though, and this is purely for debate purposes, Tom, but to counter your argument around where on the field is Rashford scoring his goals, I mean, Jadon Sancho is our equal top goal scorer, and I could argue none of his goals have come from the wide areas in which he's actually listed to be playing every week. So it's quite difficult to, I think for the purpose of this debate, it's quite difficult to judge whether it's Rashford, Sancho, Martial, Ronaldo, looking at where on the pitch the goals are scored. It's a different argument to make because, I mean, Ten Hag is hoping and deploying a fluid system across the front 3. Sancho's goal, case in point, I mean, he was center of the pitch as recent as, 3 days ago. So it's quite a difficult one. I mean, Ronaldo, and again, to counter my own argument, he scored a majority of his goals coming off the left for Real Madrid and for Manchester United, in fact. So a very interesting debate. Tad Bakes in the comments saying Ronaldo will be gone in January, you think. Please elaborate on that, mate. Let us know where you think he'll go. And happy to come back to that toward the end of the show. But Tom, let's move on from Ronaldo. You've given us some points for, and we've given you some points against. Let me bring it to Anthony Martial, and let me tell you why he should be first choice. And I've made this point before. If you look at Martial's best season for Manchester United, which was the 1920 season, his goal return was 23 goals. 17 of those goals came in the Premier League. Cristiano Ronaldo last season scored 24 goals. 18 of those goals were in the Premier League. So if you look at Anthony Martial's season, his best season, 1 goal short of Ronaldo's in terms of Premier League output in most recent years. The other thing I'll put at Martial is I think he's the more complete player. I think Ronaldo at this stage of his career, like you said, is he Manchester United's best goal scorer? Yeah, he probably is. But I think Anthony Martial is Manchester United's best dribbler. I think he's Manchester United's best link-up player in terms of the attacking third. I think he's Manchester United's best striker in terms of back to goal. And I look at all of those and the most crucial factor I'll make on Martial, and I'll maintain this fact from his best season at United to the glimpses we've seen in preseason and the cameo against Liverpool. When Anthony Martial is on the pitch, you cannot argue or debate that other players seem to come alive and look better around him. I think he makes players around him better. I think Ronaldo makes you a more dangerous side because he's such a lethal finisher, but Ronaldo relies on the service. I think Martial brings those to life around him, and as a result, you could argue United are in fact a better team because he's getting that extra 5-10% out of other players.
Look, I don't disagree. And in terms of if I am leaning towards an answer out of this trio, it is probably Anthony Martial. But first to your point in regards to, I know you're sort of not sort of really comparing them, but you bring up Anthony Martial's goal record compared to Cristiano Ronaldo and say he's actually quite similar. The one argument I would say there, that's in terms of an age profile, say prime Anthony Martial in a not a successful Man United team, but a team that was sort of winning games going forward, and an aging Cristiano Ronaldo in an absolute shambles of a season. Different sort of kettle of fish there, but one of the big reasons I agree with all the points in regards to the way we play football, I think Anthony Martial is our best choice. However, in terms of the title of this podcast, who's ERIK ten Hag's preferred number 9 and who does he see as the first choice number 9? He's played one game this season, and that is a trait. That is, I think he's played one game. Maybe it's 2. I have a feeling he's just the one game. And ultimately, that is a trait. I'll go back and I was discussing earlier with a friend in regards to Eric Bailly and Harry Maguire situation. In regards to now, I don't rate Eric Bailly too highly as a defender, but if you just look at the attributes and the traits, obviously a lot of people would sit here and say Eric Bailly technically is a better defender than Harry Maguire. So let's go along that line of thinking that Eric Bailly is better than Harry Maguire. And I'm going to compare the two because Eric Bailly obviously compared himself last week to Harry Maguire, saying he should have had more minutes himself. But I look at that situation and say, from a manager's point of view, why Harry Maguire is the first choice over an Eric Bailly, and it's simply down to fitness. If a manager can't rely on a person, you can't be sort of trying to, let's say every time Eric Bailly was fit, he was played over Harry Maguire. But ultimately, in 2 weeks' time, Eric Bailly is going to be injured. So you're going to have to throw Harry Maguire in. And is Harry Maguire's form going to improve by having 2 weeks on, 3 weeks off, 2 weeks on, 4 weeks off sort of thing? That's not really going to help sort of develop his confidence and match rhythm. So what the manager will do is rely on that person who's going to be fit to give them the consistent football. So with Anthony Martial, yes, maybe he's sort of going to be our best footballer and sort of suit ERIK ten Hag's system more than the others. But ultimately, let's take Ronaldo out of the discussion. Let's say it's Marcus Rashford or Anthony Martial. Martial suits everything better, but he's only going to play 2 weeks. Then is Rashford going to be the same player? If Rashford has to come in after 2 weeks of not playing and be that player, maybe it's better just to say, okay, we'll take the lesser player, but give him the consistent minutes, let him sort of be accustomed to the way the team plays. And that's ultimately going to be the first choice player, even it's at the expense of a potentially better sort of option. So ultimately, I do lean toward your arguments and agree that Anthony Martial is the best suited out of our 3 options. But ultimately, he's played one game this season. So ultimately, yeah, in saying that, he's the third on the list, really.
Valid argument. And let me just bring it into some of the comments here. Ted Bakes makes reference here. Martial suits Ten Hag's style of play far better than Ronaldo. Agree with you, mate. Ronaldo showing his age now. He's a yard off the pace in every aspect of the game. Just a fact. Need to drop nostalgia. Tom, on the point of Ronaldo, we have seen this season that he has we've seen defenders catch up to him in terms of he's got that yard ahead and then he's just getting caught. Do you put that down to a lack? Has he lost pace?
I think we're looking for it. That happened last year. That happened last year. We're looking for it now because the goals aren't there.
Tom, do you remember the opening game against Newcastle? His return match. He burnt the centre back that game. So and that's the thing. Like I look at the footage, I'm like, he'll go past. Lost a whole yard of pace in 12 months.
He'll go past a player next week, and we'll say, "Oh, he's got it back." But sometimes you go past players, sometimes players go past you. This was happening last year. Players were catching up. Players were sort of getting to him first. He was looking off the pace, but goals will come in, so we weren't looking for it. Now goals aren't coming in. He's a year older. We're looking for all these things, and because we're looking for them, they're highlighted and they're exposed. And I'm not saying they're wrong, but I'm just saying they were there last year. They were there 2 years ago. The way he plays in terms of the way he dropped deep, so everyone gets frustrated. Oh, what's he coming there and playing that 2-yard pass for? He's been doing that for 10 years. That's how he plays. That's how he sort of lulls the defenders into a false sense of security to hurt them later on. That's the way he plays the game. The only reason they're highlighted and we're showing frustrations with the moment is because there's no goals off the back of him. He's always played like that, and he's always, for the last couple of years, looked sort of off the pace. But and again, I'm not saying he's not losing the pace. It's just this is this case every single season. There's nothing new to me. I don't say, oh, he's 38 now. Now his legs are gone. That's not the case for me.
Valid point. Adam's got the comment here on Martial. He's had one good season in 6 years. See, I don't agree with that. I really don't. His first season with United, which was 15-16, he scored 17 goals, and that was his debut season as an 18, 19-year-old in the Premier League. I mean, you can't argue with that. 17 goals. And then you look at his first season under Mourinho, I will accept. I would say that wasn't a pass mark. Would you agree with me, Tom? Martial's first season under Mourinho?
Yeah, well, which one is it? Oh, when Zlatan Ibrahim?
Yeah.
Look, someone would have stats to say it was a good one
season. I think he had
or a bad
goals.
one. Yeah, I think it was one of those. He's always going to have it. He's always going to come down after that first season.
So we'll call the Van Gaal season a success. We'll call Mourinho's first season poor. Mourinho's second season. In January, he was Manchester United's top goal scorer on 11 goals.
Yeah.
Alexis Sanchez gets signed. He got shoved over to the right, I want to say against Arsenal from memory.
Tottenham.
Was it against Arsenal? He got shoved over to the right to accommodate Alexis Sanchez. He didn't play well because he played in a position that he didn't play all season, got dropped. And all his appearances after that, I think I believe every single appearance after Alexis Sanchez, after that Arsenal match, was off the bench. He scored 2 more goals. So is that Martial having a poor season, or is that Anthony Martial being mismanaged by the manager?
Ultimately, yes, it's mismanaging. We do look back in hindsight and the treatment of Anthony Martial at the time, or not so much for Martial, but the business of bringing Alexis Sanchez in. Yes, ultimately, it's no wrongdoing on Anthony Martial's behalf, but in regards to Adam's point, in terms of good seasons or bad seasons, ultimately, again, through no fault of his own, at the end of the day, though, black and white, it was a poor season. Now, again, that's sort of not his fault. But there is I don't agree with, but there is that sort of sense amongst the fan base, which is valid because I do see that point of view in terms of the pass mark of Anthony Martial since he has arrived. A lot of people would be sitting on the fence of maybe failure compared to success, and that would lean to more poor seasons than good seasons. Now, there are complexities in regards to that in terms of the management, how he's been used, his fitness, all these things, but it's an interesting one. I look at Anthony Martial, when he does leave the club at some stage, it will be interesting to look back at his career and sort of dissect and sort of where it went well, where it went wrong, and no shortage of talking points.
In the 2 seasons where he's been first choice striker, he's come back with 17 goals and 23 goals. I think that tells you all you need to know. In terms of the season coming off his best season, the lockdown season, let's call it the lockdown season, 2021. He started the season poorly. He's recently come out and tried to provide some commentary as to why that may have been. Mentioned he couldn't accelerate for 4 months or not. See, with these sorts of things, it's quite hard to quantify. Is that Martial's fault? Is that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's fault? Was he injured? So I take Adam's point in that respect. And Martial has to, I don't defend him. I'm not saying he's faultless. But what I will say is if we take him based on his word, can give him the benefit of the doubt. Wayne Rooney, who is my favorite Manchester United player, and I'm sure there is no one in these comments who would say Wayne Rooney is not a Manchester United legend. When he had his greatest goal return for United, 34 goals in the 9-10 season, he came back the following season, quite injury ravaged. He finished that season as our first choice striker. Do you know how many goals Wayne Rooney scored that season, Tom, when we versed Barcelona, lost 3-1 in the Champions League final?
You know me, I'm shocking for stats. I think I have a good knowledge of Manchester United's history. You tell me how many goals someone scored, I have no idea. The only one I remember is Ronaldo in 07-08 was 42 goals. Other than that, goal scoring records, I'm hopeless, so tell me.
Wayne Rooney finished the season with, I got to hear, 11. He finished with 16 goals. So 15 goals that season in 40 appearances. So that tells you all you need to know. No one's going to sit here and tell you there is no striker, there is no player in world football, unless you are Ronaldo or Messi, who doesn't have dip-offs. It happens. And then Rooney backs it up. I think the season after, he then gets 34 goals once more. So it just, case in point is, I would argue Wayne Rooney is in the same mold as Martial in the sense of, if you look at what Martial said around, when I'm not playing, I struggle to get into a rhythm. And then I need to play well when I'm not starting. And then it's almost counterintuitive for him. He gets a chance off the bench, but because he's not playing, he's not sharp. Then he plays worse, then he gets less game time.
Does that go back to the argument I say, and okay, that's maybe a mentality thing, but also tied into the fitness issue I was discussing, if that is how to get the best out of him, is it better just to where you're going to have to allow for maybe sort of 2-3 games of poor form? Is it better for a manager to just look elsewhere to someone who's sort of fit every week and doesn't need sort of a pat on the shoulder and a couple of weeks allowance of good form?
See, I made this argument around Van de Beek and Eriksson the other night, didn't I? When I said, you look at Eriksson, he took his opportunity. Van de Beek's been saying, give me a chance, give me a chance, give me a chance. Can I say, though, that argument should almost be redundant for strikers. I think strikers are a completely different breed because they do rely on goals. Every striker feels good after they score a goal. They score one, they score two, and the confidence goes up. So I will say that for strikers, I think you do need to almost treat them like no other position on the pitch. I think if you back someone who you know's got the ability, they need to be trusted to play. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but like I say on Wayne Rooney, he was someone who took 4 or 5 games to get going. I would see time. The way we complain about Fred's first touch. You see Wayne Rooney when he's back from an injury?
That's where I point to the situation around Ronaldo at the moment. Now, different physiques, different ages, different people, different players. But ultimately, you talk about Wayne Rooney needing 5-6 games. How many games are we into this season? 5-6 games in regards to Ronaldo appearances sort of thing. And I'm just thinking, give him some time. Now, that's not to say he's going to turn around and have a fantastic season, but I just think he might just be that person. We've never seen Ronaldo not play for a couple of weeks. Maybe when he doesn't play for a couple of weeks, he might need a couple of weeks to get back into the swing of things. We're just so accustomed to Ronaldo playing 90 minutes every single week. As I said, this is a different challenge for him, so time will tell.
Some debate going on in the comments. Ted seems to have my back, so thank you for that, mate. How do fans expect our players to become world class when the club is being ran poorly? It baffles you. Oh, look, mate, I think we can get into all of that. It could be a video in itself. Fans are quick to forget what Martial has done for this club, as it's fashionable to call him injury prone and lazy. I think Tom and I are both on the record for saying Martial's not lazy, but injury prone, I mean, there is an element of that, isn't there, Tom? Martial's not always fit. I think that's...
the injury prone, I think, and again, I hate to sort of label that at players in regards to no one wants to be injured. They're the prime case regarding sort of Phil Jones. Sort of hate to accuse players of that, but or sort of throw that at them. But you do look at Anthony Martial's fitness record; it is poor. And I'm sure he's a professional off the field and sort of wants doing everything right to get fit. But ultimately, the numbers do sort of show that he does unfortunately spend far too much on the sidelines.
Speaking of numbers, Marcus Rashford. Now, for both of us, it almost sounds like Rashford is last choice in terms of our preferences. Sounds like you're preferring Ronaldo. I'm almost on the Martial train. Rashford's got the highest goal return so far this season. If you look at statistically, he's got a better goal return than Martial in terms of appearances and goals. So he's more reliable, more durable in terms of fitness. So this question says, can Rashford be our main striker? I'm going to put that question to you, Tom. But then I also want you to tell me, why isn't he your first choice?
It's a hard one because here I am saying Cristiano Ronaldo is our best goal scorer, but then you look at the facts and Rashford scored more goals this season. So it is hard. You just weigh up in terms of Marcus Rashford at the moment. I don't see him in terms of the attributes he has and the way he plays the game, especially the way he plays to his strengths. I think that's suited from a wide area. I think he is a better left winger than a striker. And I think if you play someone, I wouldn't say we're not playing him at right back. Obviously striker and left wing is a little bit more similar than playing him in the number 6 role or something. So I understand it's not completely out of position, but if he's not in his strongest position, let's say for argument's sake, well, then he's so-called playing out of position. I don't think that is the recipe for success. I think in terms of that, especially that front three, play someone in their strongest position. You're not going to play Zlatan Ibrahimovic on the left wing. You're going to play him in his preferred position. I think Rashford, in terms of these attributes and the way he plays the game, is better on the left. And in terms of, as I say, a defender, if I'm a centre-back, I don't like playing against Marcus Rashford. So ultimately that says he should be very good through the middle. The reason that in terms of the way teams or as a defender, I would have to be worried about the threat in behind. And as soon as I have to worry about a threat in behind, I'm off my game and we'll maybe give him a little bit more space than's needed and Rashford potentially hurt. But because we sort of naturally in our mind and in our opposition mind and the opposition manager's mind, very often you'd think Manchester United are going to dominate the game. So very often we do see a defence sort of sit quite deep against us. And especially with Marcus Rashford there, they think about that threat in behind. So they drop 5 yards, they drop 10 yards, and Manchester United have in possession. And I think when Rashford gets that ball in that space, in regards to facing the back four, have an argument on who's the better footballers in terms of Ronaldo, Martial, and Marcus Rashford in regards to ability to find a pass. I think Rashford would potentially be at the bottom of that list, and that's not to criticise him, because obviously you're talking about the greatest player ever, and Anthony Martial, who's obviously that's a strength of his game. So I think given the way Manchester United approach so many games, or the way the games play out involving Manchester United, I don't think it suits the attributes to Marcus Rashford through the middle.
Okay, so I've got 2 points to make on that. But Steve Austin says, who here of our current crop has the work Wayne Rooney did? Well, you know what? That's actually a criticism I've had of Rashford. The way that people say Martial is lazy, I think Rashford is much lazier than Martial is. I think Martial's just got the body language, like his shoulders are slouched. Martial's demeanor on the football pitch, Tom, reminds me of your mate who's meeting you at your house on a Friday night for beers and pizza. Just his shoulders are down. He's got his back slouched.
It's an interesting one, and we've had this debate many times. But I think it's so prevalent in regards to the Rashford Martial debate. We look at work rate, and you discuss Wayne Rooney and potentially Bruno Fernandes is the first name that springs to mind in regards to work rate. Now, whether that work rate's positive or negative, that's the one that springs to mind. But in regards to Rashford Martial, I think we sort of think about work rate, and we think about effort of what we see on the ball. When a defender's got the ball, okay, are we sprinting? Are we closing the ball down? And that determines in our mind if someone's putting effort in or not. But I'll put my mind, especially let's play both these players at left wing. Obviously, Martial and Rashford have both played large chunks of their career at United on the left wing. So let's put them both in that discussion at the moment. I look at work rate, like proper work rate. Yes, you can close the ball down. Yes, you can do a 5-yard sprint to close that. But in my opinion, as a player, I remember proper work rate is if you're on left wing and the ball's on the opposite side of the field 60 yards away, are you making a 20-metre run to get in position? Even though that 20-metre run won't affect anything 9 times out of 10, are you still going to do it? That is work rate, in my opinion. Yeah. It's doing the work with it. No one's watching in terms of just in case the situation arises where you do need to be there, you're there. And I think Anthony Martial does. Well, I know because I watch the game sort of quite openly. I know Anthony Martial does that. Unfortunately, I know Marcus Rashford looks like he closes the ball down at times and that effort there. But in terms of proper off the ball stuff, unfortunately, and I love Marcus Rashford, he doesn't do that. That's a sort of a big negative to his game, unfortunately. So I'm fully agreeing with you in regards to the Anthony Martial and Rashford work rate debate. But a lot of people disagree, and they view the work rate in terms of that sort of engaging on the ball in terms of what we see on the TV. I'm not calling that wrong in terms of just my view as sort of a manager and as a player. That proper off the work ball in terms of doing the stuff that's not, sort of goes unnoticed by fans, but the managers obviously pick it up. In my opinion, Martial does get through a hell of a lot of work that does go unseen.
I think Martial's a better left winger and striker than Rashford. I just think Martial's a better player.
How long have we been having the debate of Martial and Rashford, left winger or striker? And I said here,
we'll be having it when they're 50 years old, Tom.
I've just said here, Rashford's a left winger. He'll score a double next week, and I'll say no. He actually should be our centre forward. Like it changes every single week with these two.
I think the problem with Rashford is. Can I ask you on Rashford, what have you made of the? I mean, it's common knowledge now. Rashford's the one who's gone to Ten Hag and said, "Deploy me centrally." What have you made of that? What do you think his motives could be behind that? Do you think he's looked at a declining Ronaldo, or do you think he's purely for selfish reasons? Do you think he's looking at himself and thinking,
"I'd say selfish."
I'd actually be the best number 9.
And not in a, I say selfish, but not in a critical way. But I think Marcus Rashford is what he is in terms of he's a brand. He is his sort of big personality sort of in Manchester United and England and the media. And he needs to keep up, and rightly so. And I think what young kid growing up supporting Manchester United doesn't want to be a Man United striker. Of course, it was obviously a dream for him to be a Man United striker. You'd want him to be that in terms of you'd want him to want that. And so definitely not critical of it saying it's a selfish aspect of him, but I'm just thinking, I think that is where it stems from. I think he wants, again, rightly so, it's definitely not a criticism, but he wants the plaudits. He wants to be that man who leads Man United. You saw that Diogo Dalot quote a couple of days ago in regards to saying we can be the players who will be remembered as bringing Man United back to where they belong. I think you look at that from Marcus Rashford. I think he does want to be that player. And this is, again, a good thing. This is a praise thing of Marcus Rashford. I think he wants to be that player who is seen as sort of leading Manchester United back to where they belong. Now, do I think there's better options than that? Yes, I do. And I think obviously in the transfer market, there are better options. But at the moment, in regards to this debate and that trio, you do admire the confidence from Marcus Rashford in that regard.
Okay. On one final question to you, Tom, and I'll ask you again in the comments, get who your first choice is. It's decision time is right on the cusp now. So whoever your number 1 striker is, make sure you get your comments in. But Tom, let me ask you this then: we've highlighted what the positives are in Rashford's game. What are the negatives? Tell me why Rashford can or cannot become a world class. Well, first, it's a two-part question. One, do you believe Rashford has the ability to become a world class striker? And depending on your answer, tell me why he can or cannot.
I just don't think he's intelligent enough. I just don't think he's a smart enough footballer. I think we see so often, even on the left wing where the game's a lot less complicated, we see him running down blind alleys and sort of making the wrong decisions in regards to crossing and shooting and sort of his final choice and final ball. So I think just that, and you suddenly put him in a more complicated situation in regards to that striker position, which is a far harder position to play. And yet there's far more demands placed on you. I don't think Marcus Rashford has that. Now, yes, he has the ability to go past a player and finish, of course. But overall, and being consistent throughout a season, if you put him up as, let's say, against the best defender in the world in the Champions League, and it's a one-on-one sort of real hard battle, I think ultimately the defender is sort of going to win. And again, not to criticise, not many players are going to get better at the best defender in the world. But ultimately, as Man United, where we need to be, where we want to be, we're going to need a striker who's going to be able to do that consistently. And again, that's not me saying sell Marcus Rashford. I think in terms of the way he's moving forward under ERIK TEN HAG, you can see a future for him and a bright future at left wing. But ultimately, I don't think he has the smarts which is required to sort of lead the line for the biggest club in the world.
Perfect. And just one final question on Rashford. You've mentioned his footballing intelligence. What about ability? So I think, and this is the reason why I personally wouldn't go Rashford. And this is why I think it's a two-horse race between Martial and Ronaldo. Rashford's best game is going in behind. I'm yet to see anything in his game that says when there's a defense that's going to sit in a low block, does Rashford have the capability to be back to goal, bring others into play? Does he have the ability to dribble past a man one-on-one in a lower block? And you know what? It's funny. I found myself on the weekend watching some of Rashford's highlights. He's got the ability to beat a man. I think we've almost forgotten that he has that in his locker, and perhaps that's a confidence thing. He's had a terrible time with injury and form over the last 18 months or so. But I just wonder, for him to be a world-class first-choice number 9 striker for United, I think there's a too big a gap to cover. He's nearly 25. I think his ability now, I mean, how much can he improve really? And I guess that's the biggest question for me.
Well, no, I made the point of, I think it might have been in regards to Marcus Rashford. I think it was the Gary Neville quotes a couple of weeks ago you brought up in regards to ability and Rashford. Yeah. And in regards to, the ability to do a bit of skill and go past a player and curl one in the top corner, that's ability. And he has that in bags full. Like, he can do that. Like, he has all the ability in the world. But a huge part of ability and being successful is to do the 6 out of 10s, to do the basics right consistently. I don't think Rashford can do that. Is it going to shock me if he puts one in the top corner from 40 yards? No, I can see him doing that. I was the only person in the world who was probably expecting that free kick at Stamford Bridge in the League Cup. I was expecting Marcus Rashford to put that in. No one was expecting it, but I believe he has the ability to do that one-off. But can he make the right pass 9 times out of 10? I don't think he can. And I think that is a huge part of ability rather than just the visual aspect of what we see.
Got Chris in the comments. Hello, lads. Jumped on to say hello. I'm watching the Queen's funeral. Don't think Rashford is our answer up front. Well, look, I'm not going to try and make a link there, but I'm a bit concerned that you're watching a funeral and then decided, now I know that Rashford's not the choice up front. But nonetheless, I don't want to go down.
Hopefully we've provided more entertainment. Obviously, there is no football, so we are trying to bring as much sort of Manchester United attention away from.
I know it's not the Friday night plant, but can I ask you, people queuing up for hours to go past the coffin of someone they've never met? Explain it to me. Tell me the logic. I mean, I've queued up for hours outside a Melbourne hotel waiting for Bruno Fernandes to sign my flag. But at least Bruno Fernandes is alive, and it's a memory that I can keep for myself, and I've got photo evidence of it. What do I gain by waiting in an 8-kilometer, 10-hour line to see the Queen's coffin? Like, can you just someone explain it to me? Like, look, and no hate on anyone who did it.
Each their own. Look. Drop David Beckham. David Beckham's going to come here. I want you to say that to him. He's one of the people who did it. So again, but I fully understand in regards to if that's someone's choice, go for it. No skin off my back. I feel it, and not to get into a Queen's discussion or sort of a political debate or anything. I don't feel comfortable in regards to this sort of funeral and the way it's panning out. maybe I'm old school in regards to they're shoving cameras in the face of the family at their funeral. I just think that's not the most respectful thing, in my opinion, in regards to the whole world's media is tuned in to watch someone's funeral. I think it should be a private affair. The way it's displayed in public and we're all talking about it, it's not. Unfortunately, that is the way of the world. But in regards to stuff like that and people watching the coffin, if they want to do that, feel free. No skin off my back, but obviously something. I just wouldn't feel comfortable doing. Like, it's the body in there. That's not for me, but each to their own.
Yeah. I'm with you. All right, Tom. So we've made cases for, we've made cases against, we've discussed Martial, Rashford, Ronaldo. Is there anyone outside of that you think could enter into this debate? Is there an outside choice? Do you see, we've seen Eriksen deployed in a false nine. We've seen Bruno at times deployed in a false nine. Charlie McNeil made his debut. Is there any other option up front you think that you could see? Not necessarily to be United's first choice number 9, but is there any other player in this squad that you could see playing some sort of role centrally?
No, not a chance. I think the big question, and unfortunately don't have ERIK ten Hag's sort of view on it yet, his public view of it, but maybe the option is there in the transfer market. Maybe that's his thinking. We're all sort of pinning our hopes on these 3 strikers and sort of weighing up pros and cons. And who's ERIK ten Hag's preferred number 9? Maybe his preferred number 9 is not at the club. Maybe it's someone he wants to bring, whether that be January or next window, or he wasn't able to bring in this window. It'll be interesting to see how he views Anthony Martial and sort of obviously Cristiano Ronaldo. There's no future there. Obviously, he's just sort of using the tool that he has at the moment. But in regards to Martial and Rashford, how does ERIK ten Hag view their futures? Does he see them as future number 9s at Manchester United? Or is he going to go and do what he did with Anthony and Martinez and Casemiro and spend some big money to fix the issue?
Yeah, it will be interesting. All right, Tom, look, based on everything we've debated, you've made a compelling case for Ronaldo. Martial's still first choice for me. I'm going to say Martial just on those. I know, and look, to be honest, maybe this is a bit of heart over head. I just think that once he comes back to being fit, I got a feeling he's going to kill it. I really do. So I'm just going to be biased, keep my head up my own backside, and I'm going to say.
I think Martial is the correct answer. However, I do look back and think, in terms of getting the best out of Cristiano Ronaldo, I think he is struggling with coming off the bench and playing a bit part role. I think ultimately, if you play Ronaldo consistently for a prolonged amount of games for 90 minutes, that is the preferred option. And the reason I think you can do that is because the fact that Anthony Martial doesn't play. He's been injured for 7 or 8 games. So I think you might as well afford Ronaldo that opportunity to do that.
Okay, so this is how I think we get a conclusive answer, because, Tom, you're the world's best unofficial politician. So I'm going to question it like this to you. We're in the Europa League. All right, tell you what, United got to secure top 4. It's fine. You know, I'm going to up the stakes. United could become champions. It's the final game of the season. Who's your striker? Assuming everyone's fit. Who's your front 3? Give me your front 3.
Sancho, Ronaldo, Anthony.
Ugh. All right, there you go. I'm saying Martial. Tom's saying Ronaldo. Let us know what you guys think. Steve Austin says Ronaldo. Adam says Martial is our worst striker. So I'm assuming he's going Ronaldo as well. Tom, I think you win, but I'm going to keep being ignorant and I'm going to say Martial. But I hope you've all enjoyed that. So if you have enjoyed the video, please hit a like. And if you are new, make sure you do hit subscribe. Look, Tom and I are working on some things. So stay tuned. Stay tuned to our social media platforms, UTD Podcast on Instagram and Twitter. There will be some things. Trust me, you don't want to miss out. So make sure you do stay tuned. We've got Isaac saying Martial, Sancho, Anthony. Steve Austin says the GOAT. He's referring to Ronaldo there.
I think it's hard with Anthony. I think there's a lot of excitement around Anthony. Has he done enough? And I'm not saying he hasn't. It's obviously you can't judge anything at the moment. But has he done enough for all of us to say he's our right winger now? Now, obviously, the price tag potentially alludes to that sort of having to be the case. But in terms of what you've seen, would you prefer to see Rashford on the left and Sancho on the right?
I think he's one where it'll be purely down to match fitness. I'm with you. If you're telling me pick United's starting 11 right now, like there's a game tomorrow, I'm saying Rashford on the left, Ronaldo up front, Sancho on the right.
Yeah.
But I think if we have this same discussion in 3 months' time, I dare say around the New Year period, I think we'll have a better idea of Anthony. He is another one, Tom. He hasn't played a lot of football. I think once
Yeah.
this guy
Yeah,
gets firing,
nothing against him. I just think in
yeah,
terms of the two displays, three displays, not critical of his performance, but ultimately that's someone else. If that's Jadon Sancho on the right, we're probably saying, oh, is he good enough for right wing? Should we bring someone else in? So, yeah, we've got to be patient with Anthony. I'm just thinking all of us at the moment just saying, oh, Anthony on the right wing. Thinking, okay, fair
yeah, I
enough,
think
but
that's
it's
because of
worth
the
a debate.
price.
Yeah, I know it's a valid
No one here is
argument.
an expert on the Eredivisie or Ajax, so I think he's got ability for sure. But I think, yeah, based on current form, he's not in my strongest 11.
Yeah, I think he's actually been fine. I think no one's been sort of too critical of him, but there has been one or two
I've
questions.
had a
I think he's provided a good balance in terms of sort of cutting in and sort of allowing Diego Dalot sort of get forward. So just patience with Anthony, patience.
I think so. But we'll leave it there. Cheers to the legends for joining in on that debate. Hope you enjoyed it. And Tom, sure, I'll see you in a couple of days. Stay tuned. We'll bring something to you. Don't know what, but we'll find something.
Well, we've still got
Enjoy
that
that,
guest
Tom.
coming. Obviously, the UFC fighter Mohamed Makayev. I was talking to him last night. Got a bit tied up with training. Obviously, the time schedule in regards to Bahrain and Sydney has been providing a little bit of a challenge, but we'll definitely get him on at some stage. He's given me his word sometime throughout the international break. So, yeah, stay tuned.
Perfect. Stay tuned for that, and we'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.
Cheers.